Okay, there we go. Taking off east-northeast today. That's where the wind's coming from. Not much, but a little bit. Just enough to stop us from launching downwind. What is the purpose of today's flight? Well, apart from to have a good time, fly out to Howlong and beyond, depending on what the wind's doing. I'm just heading out to my favourite tree out there and dam, although you can't really call it that anymore with no water in it, to circle round and let Ted find me. Now this part didn't go to plan, so I've jumped right ahead. I'd circled the dam, Ted saw me but then lost me. Then I went up to a crossroads and I'm doing the last circle I think now, and Ted couldn't quite get me, so rather than waste his battery, I said go on, I'll try and find you. A little bit of haze around. So I'm looking around for Ted, not sure where he is. We're communicating to each other, but there's no real good landmarks that Ted can sort of give me. I've climbed, as you can see, so I don't run into Ted, and I'm just looking around. I've got to admit this is very ambitious for blind old me to sort of try and find Ted. Jason's very good at this. I don't know how many times we've got separated by conditions and nearly running into each other, and oh, there's Heritage Hill off in the distance there. Jason's always been really good to catch up and find me again. So it's a bit bold of me to think that I can just come up behind Ted, not knowing really where he is, and catch him. But I suppose amazing things do happen. And those flocks of birds down there on the left, they don't make it easy. They distract your attention thinking, oh, there he is. But Ted's talking to me and told me that he's getting up to the road that heads off towards Howlong. So I'm thinking, I'm asking him, give me distances, and he gave me a distance, and I said, oops, we're pretty near each other, so I better just circle around so he can get a little bit in front of me, which is what happens, but I still can't see him at this point. Now he said he's getting up, he's heading towards that crossroads, so I'm thinking, based on his distance and mine, we're just missing each other. I'm looking, I can see cars on the... Ah, there he is. I can just see the little dot there, streaking over that house. And there he is. So I could say, you know, it was all constructed beautifully, we're professionals, but there's a lot of luck in that. Gee, beautiful trees down below. Never noticed that before. That is lovely. Be some nice spiders in there too, I'm thinking. But anyway, we've caught up with Ted and we're on the way to Howlong. This is Ted's way to Howlong. I don't quite follow this road. I head a little bit more to the north. Yeah, it's not the smoothest. I know with the GoPro it doesn't look too rough, but if you look at my OSD feed you can see I'm not getting knocked around, but the stabilizer's making quite a few corrections. You can see Ted moving around, so there was a little bit of wind there. This is where you see the difference between the two aircraft. I'm right down at 7 amps. The wind is pushing us along a little bit, I'm, in communication with Ted most of the time, and everything seems to be okay. You can see Ted's crabbing there. I am, but it's easy to notice if you look at Ted's aircraft. And you can see that the wind is coming from the right, so we're having to crab to stay in line with the road. Can see how dry it is, even though there's a bit of a dam there. You can see just how far down they are. I remember flying this late last year with Jason after coming back from Canberra, and it was so green, so green. Obviously some Sudanese people have walked past, the dogs have barked, I've trained them. No, only kidding. So now we start to head into the tiger country, as I would call it. An old term from the hang gliding days is where you don't want to land or get no thermal lift and have to land, because getting out of there would be an absolute nightmare. So even though there is a bit of a dirt road in there, there's parts here in this area where I would not like the plane to go down. Now Ted's approaching Howlong from a slightly different direction than what I would. I'd be more to the right at this time. Now I think he's deliberately done that so that we avoid a thing called Jason's quarry. Oh, that's my feeling anyway. He's avoided it because it's not a good subject, not a happy subject between those two. Jason calls it a quarry and Ted says it's not a quarry. So that's my reasoning for why Ted's flying over to the left like this. He might say, oh, he intends to head to Kisbet, but I don't believe him. I must admit, I always loved this flight out to Howlong, even though I think Ted reckons we've done it to death. It's a happy flight for me. I just love the country. It changes. You go from paddocks, housing, dams, lakes, roads into tiger country, and then into a reasonably lush area of Howlong. That's how I see it. Oh, big speed difference there between the two aircraft, so I have to back right off on the power. Wait for Ted to get out and then apply the power again. Because Ted's in the lead, we're sort of following his height. It's a little bit in the nosebleed area for me. I'd prefer to be down at 60 here, but Ted's got plans to head off to Kisbet, up the Murray River, so he wants to establish a reasonable altitude for that distance, which is about 16k. He's making a course correction there now. For how long? Now the reason I don't pan is I'm not as good as Jason. I've got all my fingers working on the throttle and on the ailerons, and I just don't have enough fingers left for the pan. I've got to get that head tracker in use on days like this where we want to follow, because it would have been so much easier just to pan. So I've used 3 amps for 10 kilometres. That's 1 amp too much, but remember earlier in this flight I've cut it out. There was a lot of circling and circling. Did I mention circling? I was saying to Ted at this point, I said, you sure we're heading in the right direction for Howlong? Because I couldn't see Howlong in the SD camera, but I can see it there in the HD feed quite clearly now in the distance. I thought we'd come in a little bit too much to the western side, so I'm looking around. It was a bad overshoot. That there's Howlong. So we're heading towards Howlong, and I'm not too sure what we're going to do, where Ted's battery's at. And I thought he said, he just said, look, I'm turning left in a second, and I thought he meant I'm heading home. I didn't realise he was going on to Kisbet. So he decides to go left. I think he's heading for home, and I say see you later, because I just wanted to go for a bit of a look around my favourite town. There he goes. He's heading off, and I decide to do a kamikaze run into the middle of beautiful downtown Howlong. I'm dropping the altitude a bit because I want to try and stop the nosebleed. And you can't enjoy Howlong unless you get down low. They've got some good sporting facilities there, that's for sure. This is not the main road, but I thought I'll follow this down to the golf course. Coming up on the golf course. Not too sure what the other complex is there, but there's no shortage of money being spent on that by the look of it. And here's these very, very blue lakes, water features, and you can see the fountain that I keep raving on about in that one down the bottom right. I think there's two, but there's the other one might be kaput, but there you go. And look at the lazy people going on their golf carts across the bridge there. Jeepers creepers. Walk it, walk it. Certainly, it's got a lot greener very quickly. I do love this area. I don't know why. Just something about flying over it just always thrills me, and that's a good thing if you enjoy it. I hope I don't want to annoy people there, but this thing you can hardly hear when it's directly overhead at 30 metres, let alone at 72. Just coasting along. Heading for home. And shortly I will ease the pain and speed the video up by 8 times. But not until we've come up to the quarry. Interesting crop below, very green, looks great. Yeah, got a pretty good pace for 9.5 amps at nearly 60 kilometres an hour ground speed, so wherever the wind is, it's shifted a bit more to the north, I think. You can see actually just the ground speed changing quite a bit, so it shows there's a few lumps. And well, there it is. The Jason's not a quarry. So, having got that, oh, there it is in all its beauty. Wonderful place. Fascinating stuff. So now that we've got the major landmark out of the road, I can get this show on the road and speed the video up. Ah, look at that. I love this area. Beautiful area. Always something interesting to have a look at on the ground. Coming back from Coral or Rutherglen and that, gee, oh, that's a bit monotonous. And there we go. 8 times speed. Dropping height again. Here we come, getting ready to land, but first I want to check out this new construction that they're doing here right down in front of us. So I'm concentrating so much on this, I'm really not setting up the landing. I'm really just fixated on what they're doing down there. Then I think, okay, now I'll go and do a landing. Haven't looked at, I've still got quite a few amps on. Oh, I'm too high. And I even put more power on here. I can't work it out. So be prepared for the scariest landing you've ever seen. So I decide, oh, maybe I will land. So power off, 70 ground speed, 70. That's too high, too fast. Come on, you're kidding. Uh-oh. Wow. Thanks for watching.